The first sound is not a roar. It is a crack. A thin, sharp crack that makes a goat lift its head and a shopkeeper freeze mid-count. The sky looks heavy. The road looks normal. But a camera on a balcony is already recording. Small stone jumps. Then another. A boy laughs. He thinks it is nothing. The ground sighs. The mountain answers, dust blooms like a ghost behind the trees. People turn, someone points. The first shout is a warning. The second shout is fear. Feet start to run. Metal scrapes. A van stalls. A bell rings by itself in a small hillside shrine. 7. Cameras will show what happened next. 7 angles. 7 clues. When the slope let go, the village had seconds. The question is simple. Who heard the mountain first? Stay with this. Watch every frame, because there's one thing the cameras caught. That almost no one saw. Morning light lay soft on a Nepali mountain valley. Terrace fields made neat steps down a steep slope. Prayer flags flickered on a thin line of string between 2 poles. Shopkeeper stood in his doorway, counting coins. His radio was low. The weather sounded bored. The air smelled of wet stone. It had rained for days. Then it stopped. The break felt kind and also wrong. A phone on a balcony faced the hillside. The owner had left it recording. He liked time-lapse clouds. The lens watched quietly. It saw a goat. It saw a woman in red. It saw a small, pale crack on the green hill. The crack looked harmless, like a scratch on paint. It was not the first. Sin was not big. A pebble skipped. It made a dry, clicking sound on a flat roof. The shopkeeper looked up. His coin rolled away. A child chased it and laughed. The laugh ended when the ground gave a small shake like a cough. You might miss it if you were not standing still. Up on the slope, water had been working for days. It slid through soil, found old roots, and pressed hard into thin seams of clay. It filled an old scar in the hill. Then inside the hill something let go. It was not loud. It was a decision. The woman in red turned her head. She could not see. The top of the slope, trees hid it. But she saw dust rise in a thin ribbon, like smoke from a match. She knew that shape. Her father had told her stories. When the mountain breathes, he said, you run first and wonder later. The radio made a small pop. The signal faded. The air tightened, like a held breath. A man pushing a handcart stopped. He listened. Everyone listened. The silence felt like a warning. The balcony phone recorded it all. If you watch the frame in slow motion, you see 3 clues. A dog puts its ears flat. A line of prayer flags dips as if a hand pressed down. And a white bird stays low racing. The contour of the hill, like it knows something is coming. A crack thin and sharp rolled across the slope. It sounded like ice breaking on a lake. The shopkeeper whispered one word. Run.
Ow.
But how fast can a small town move when the mountain decides to move first? The first stones did not fall. They ran. They skittered down in thin lines, fast as insects. They clicked and clattered, then vanished into scrub. Each line pulled another line. Each scratch widened into a mouth. Soil peeled. Roots snapped. Gray tongue of earth slid over the edge. People moved. They did not scream yet. They shuffled, grabbed, turned. A teenager shut the metal shutter of a small shop. He fumbled the lock. It stuck. Pulled hard, then let go and ran. A scooter tried to start and coughed. The rider jumped off and pushed. He looked back and made a choice. A van rolled into view. The driver braked. He saw dust spitting. Out of the slope like steam, he leaned on the horn. The horn sounded thin. He waved his arm and shouted at 2 women carrying baskets. They did not argue. They ran. On a narrow path to the fields, an old man paused. He faced the hill. He bowed once to a shrine nailed to a tree and touched the little brass bell. It rang. The ring echoed through the footage. Later, many people would say they heard that bell dot above them. Soil turned to liquid. It moved in sheets. It was not soft. It was heavy and full of stone. Saplings bent and vanished. Air filled with grit. The dust had a smell wet chalk and old leaves crushed. The sound changed. It bloomed from a whisper to a roar, the kind of deep sound you feel in your chest. It came in waves. Camera 1, on the balcony, caught the first collapse. Camera 2, a shop's CCTV, watched faces turn as one. Camera 3, a tourist's phone, shook and then steadied on the slope. It framed the moment the green of the hill peeled back and revealed the gray bones beneath. The first big block fell like a door. It hit a lower ledge, exploded. That is when people truly ran. The crowd turned into motion. Sandals slapped asphalt. A mother grabbed a child by the collar. A man tripped and rolled. Hands pulled him up. The van backed, tires screaming. The driver could not see, but he felt the road drop under one wheel and stopped short. Dust swallowed the sun. The street dimmed. The radio cut out. A woman's prayer rose and broke in the air, thin and fast. In the footage, one small detail stands out. A string of prayer flags snapped. The flags whipped, then went slack, as if gravity shifted. Some say the flags stopped a falling stone for an instant. Say the flags were a sign, pointing to where the ground would split. Where did the ground split next? There was a road cut into the mountain like a thin scar. It hugged the slope and ignored the river below. A small pickup climbed it with a driver who had one hand on the wheel and one on a tin of tea. His dash cam blinked a red dot. It saw everything and felt nothing. The first wave of soil came fast but low. It washed across the road and carried small rocks like teeth. The pickup slid. The driver corrected. He did not waste time staring. He drove. Then, 10 meters ahead, the road changed shape. It slumped and folded as if someone pressed a thumb into soft bread. The dashcam frame bent as the truck bounced. The driver braked and stopped just short of a new cliff. Oh, the road had torn away. The missing piece fell into the river with a distant crash that sounded too slow, like a delayed drum. Water leaped up dirty and wide. The driver swore once under his breath and shut off the engine. He listened. The mountain roared back. From this angle, the slide looked like a wave, but waves retreat. This did not. It kept coming. Trees moved. Sideways. Soil turned to thick smoke. A big boulder rolled like a loose wheel, then shattered against a stump. A brown cow stood stranded on a small green island of grass, stared at nothing and chewed. The driver lifted his phone with shaking fingers. He filmed past the dashcam, not trusting any one camera to tell the truth. He set a date and a time, then forgot both as another part of the slope let go with a cough and a crash. He saw a motorbike turn around below and fishtail. 2 people jumped off and pushed.
Oh.
Down the hill, a group ran with a bright blue tarp over their heads like a shield. The tarp flapped and snapped. It looked like a wave inside a wave. The pickup's dashcam captured something else. A tiny movement on the far side. A narrow footpath, half hidden, still stood. A dog ran across it, then stopped and looked back. It barked 3 times, clear and even. It waited. No one followed yet. The dust thickened, hiding the path. A crack opened near the pickup's front tire. It grew like an ink line. The driver turned the key. The truck started. Backed up slowly, careful, like carrying a bowl of full water. He parked on higher ground, left the engine on, and climbed out to wave at others. He directed them to a safer turnout. His hands were steady now. A job helps when fear is large. The camera kept rolling. It caught the moment the river below turned the color of tea and then strangely went quiet for a breath. People who watched later asked the same question. Why did the river go quiet? Every valley has a story for days like this. People call some hills sleeping. They say the hill rolls once each century, just to turn its side. They remember a year when the road was not there and a rock rolled into a temple courtyard and cracked its steps. They remember a flood that brought fish into a field and left them there, shining like coins on black soil. They keep these memories like dried seeds in jars. They open the jars on days when the sky is wrong, a slow camera for belonged to a man who filmed birds. He stood on a terrace with a tripod. His lens was long. It did not shake. It tracked the slope as if it were an animal. It caught small things that fast phones missed. It saw a line of ants moving their eggs. It saw a wedge of earth bulge and flatten, like a chest trying to breathe. It saw a wooden prayer wheel spin by itself in a wind that had not reached the village yet. He whispered into his mic. "The hill is moving," said it in a calm voice, like he was naming a bird. A child beside him started to cry and then stopped. The man touched the child's shoulder and pointed to the far ridge. "Watch the birds," he said. "They will show us." On the ridge, black specks rose all at once and turned. They made a curve in the sky like a script. The script spelled a warning no one could read yet. The dust rose to meet them. The birds curved again and slid away like ink running downhill. Higher up, past the trees, an old scar showed through the grass. Long ago, a smaller slide had cut the slope and left a shallow bowl. People had planted it with maize. Today the maize lay flat and the soil beneath it melted. The bowl became a mouth. It opened wider and wider, then spat everything it held. The tripod camera saw something else. It's a line of blue pipes, thin water lines that fed the houses, snapped in sequence. 1, 2, 3, like a zipper opening. They flew up, then down. Water arched and vanished into dust. The child reached for the water and then pulled back from the heat of fear in the air. Old story said the hill sleeps, but what wakes it? Rain? Yes. Shaking. Sometimes. This time the camera found another clue. Deep under the slope, a hidden spring had punched through a layer of clay. The clay slid like oiled glass. It's water one, because water is patient. It tapped and finally the hill listened. The man with the birds stepped back and folded his tripod. He picked up the child. His voice stayed calm. "We go now," he said. He did not run. He moved like he had practiced. Maybe he had. In his mind, for years, in his last frame, the prayer wheel by the path spun again. Faster, with no visible hand touching it. What turned the wheel? Downstream stood a narrow footbridge made of steel grates and rope handrails. It swayed above the river like a thread. A group reached it fast, led by a woman with a red scarf. The scarf flashed like a small flag in gray air. Behind her, a boy carried a cardboard box with holes. Inside, something moved. He kept it level even while running. Camera 5 belonged to a small drone. Its owner launched it from a rooftop. Drone rose, tilted, and slid over the dust like a hawk. It showed the slide from the sky. The scale made stomachs drop. A whole slice of the mountain was on the move. It did not tumble in lumps only. It flowed, it crawled, it surged. It was wood and water and stone and air, mixed into one heavy living thing, from above. The drone saw paths becoming rivers of earth. It saw roofs buried to the eaves in minutes. It saw the bridge take a spray of stones, then hold. The woman in the red scarf stepped onto the grate. She did not look down. She held the rope with one hand and a small child with the other. The boy with the box stepped after her. The bridge swung. The river jumped and shouted. The wind pulled at the scarf. It did not win in the air. The drone caught shapes in the dust. A figure moved along a higher ledge. He waved. He pointed to another path that cut behind a stone wall. Some turned toward him. The drone operator focused, then lost him in the swirl. Later, people would ask who he was. No one knew. Some said he was a road worker. Others said a pilgrim. A few said no one had been there at all. That dust can look like a man when fear wants. A guide. At the far end of the bridge, an old woman waited with a walking stick. She stamped the stick twice and counted the steps of each person crossing. 5, 6, 7. She counted so she would not scream. The drone's mic could not hear her, but a phone at the bridgehead did. Her voice was steady and slow. The boy's box made a soft sound. Inside were 2 young hens, bright-eyed and quiet. He had not left them behind. He placed the box in the old woman's hands. She nodded once, like this was normal. Like saving small lives made the big fear less. The drone tilted to look back up the valley. It saw a second slide start higher, darker, faster. It would reach the road in minutes. The operator spoke into his radio. Second wave. The word moved along the crowd like a spark. People did not panic. They moved with purpose now, like a school drill. But real. A single frame from the drone showed the red scarf lift like flame and then drop as the woman stepped off the bridge and vanished into the trees. That frame would become the still image pinned on many phones later. But who was the man on the ledge? Dust turned day to dusk. Lights came on in shops, though it was not evening. A temple lamp flickered and held. Siren wailed, then cut, then wailed again. Rescuers arrived with masks and bright vests. They moved in pairs. They used simple tools. They listened more than they spoke. Listening tells you where the ground is thin and where it will hold. Camera 6 was a small security camera on the temple wall. It faced the courtyard. The frame was narrow. It saw the lamp, the bell, and a stone step broken on one side. It saw people come in ones and twos. Some knelt. Some tied the ends of prayer flags that had broken in the wind. A boy set the box of hens down in a dry corner. He opened it and let them breathe easy. One pecked at a grain and gave a small, normal sound. Small, normal sounds matter when everything else is large. The slide slowed, then surged again, then slowed. It was a pulse. The air tasted of metal. The dust got in the teeth. The rescuers made a line and passed water bottles hand to hand. A woman in the line wore the red scarf, now tied around her wrist. Her hands were scraped. She smiled at a child for exactly 1 second, then turned and lifted another crate. The temple bell rang twice by itself as the ground hummed. The camera jittered. The lamp flame steadied. Outside the frame, a radio gave updates. 2 roads blocked. 1 footpath safe at higher ridge. Small groups moved along that safe line now, led by voices you could not see. Someone counted always. Counting at the edge of the courtyard, a man stood still and looked at the slope. He had a map in his head. He traced old water lines, old stories, new cracks, pointed toward a dark patch under a rock band. There, he said. It will go again there. No one argued. They cleared the area. Minutes later, the patch slumped and slid. No one got caught. People said later he was a geologist from a nearby town. Others said he was just a farmer, with good eyes. Either way, the cameras caught him pointing, and the hill obeyed his finger. Night fell early because dust stole the sun. A few lights made islands in the gray. People shared blankets. They shared tea, hot and sweet. They told each other names, fast, so they would not be strangers in this hard hour. A child asked if the mountain would sleep now. An old woman said, "Yes, but we will keep watch." In the temple frame, a shadow moved across the bell, though no one stood near. It was just dust, maybe thick enough to look like a shape. Or maybe the mountain had its own way of visiting places where people wait. The night had one more sound in it, low, rolling rumble far up valley like a cart on a wooden bridge. It came and went, promised something. What was still moving? In the dark. Morning came pale. The dust settled in thin layers on leaves, roofs, and hair. The air felt soft, like after snow. The people walked the edges of the new ground with care. They did not step on fresh cracks. They spoke in low voices. Keecher wrote a list of names. A nurse checked a bandage on a scraped knee. The hens slept, then woke and shook themselves and clucked. That made a few people smile. Camera 7 was the simplest of all. It was a student's phone with a smudged lens. It showed hands, feet, and pieces of sky. It caught short scenes. A rescuer tying a rope to a trunk, a mother pouring tea from a steel pot for strangers, a boy picking up dropped prayer flags and folding them, a drone sitting on a rooftop, its battery blinking empty, like a bird at rest. The student whispered, "We were lucky," and did not say why. Sometimes luck is just the sum of small, smart choices done fast. The big slide had stopped. The river ran brown and strong. It made more noise now as it carried a day's worth of earth to places far away. The broken road ended in a clean, frightening edge. People stood there and stared at the cut. They tried to remember what the turn looked like yesterday. His memory is slippery after a day like that. The student's phone panned to the slope. It seemed quiet, but if you looked long, you saw movement. A small rock rolled. A tree adjusted its new lean. Water found a new line and glittered for a second when the sun finally burned through thin cloud. The cameras were gathered now. People handed over clips. They made a group folder on a single old laptop with taped corners. They watched the day in angles. They saw the signs they had missed at the start. The birds staying low, the dog barking 3 times. The prayer flags dipping as if pressed by an invisible hand. Brass bell ringing before anyone touched it. They argued about the meaning and then stopped. Some things were signs. Some were just parts of a day. But one frame held the room. It was the drone still of the man on the ledge, his arm lifted, pointing to the hidden path. The frame was crisp, and the dust made his outline bright. The red scarf was in the same frame lower, like an arrow. Inside an arrow, a rescuer said he saw that man later near the bridge. Another said he did not. The student said nothing but tapped the screen twice and zoomed. The face was not clear. The hat could have been any hat. The shape could have been a trick of light. Or not. The student turned the phone on himself last. He looked tired and brave and too young for a day like this. The mountain moved, he said. We moved too. Behind him, the hill lay like a sleeping animal, belly now on the valley floor. He added one more line. Next time we listen earlier. Then far up the slope, in a place no camera had seen clear before, a smaller puff of dust rose and fell as if something sighed. People glanced up. They stayed ready. They had learned the taste of that sound. What did the mountain try to say before words?